Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Red Gaming Tech video. My name is Marta and I'm having an amazing day. Paul is having a well-deserved holiday right now, so over the next few days it is down to yours truly to look after you and give you the latest and greatest news from the tech world. And today we are going to kick things off with yet more RTX 40 news, this time specifically RTX 4080 benchmarks went overclocked and with power limits increased as well. Of course, just the other day we did discuss some gaming benchmarks. If indeed you did miss that video, you will find it on the channel, and I will try and remember to link it as the recommended video at the end of this one. But we're going to get cracking right on with these new results. And I will say right off the bat that credit for this goes to videocards.com. And of course you can find their article and anything else I use as a source for this video linked below. So they managed to get their hands on a few different results. We see stock, power limit max, and with a clock adjustment. Now the first three results that we want to discuss here are some time spike extreme results. So we're going to go stock, then power limit, then OC. So as you can see, the graphics score for stock is 13778, then for the power limit at max it is 14,200, and then for the overclocked it is 15,062. And just to put that in some sort of context, I'm sure some of you are thinking, okay, numbers are great, but what does that actually mean? Basically means that it gains up to 9% in time spike extreme, and they've even provided a helpful benchmark graph here where you can see it in a bit more easy to read format. So as you can see, RTX 4080, then the RTX 4080 with the power limit, and then OC plus power limits. So of course with the power limit increased, it's a jump, it's not nothing, but obviously the more significant jump, unsurprisingly, is the one with the overclock plus the power limit. But they didn't just get their hands on some time spike results, they also managed to get their mitts on some Port Royal scores, and we also see a score of 18,941 and 7,750 on Port Royal and Speedway respectively. And once again we do have a benchmark graph here to give you a bit more of a picture as to how this measures up. And unsurprisingly we do see a pretty significant jump from the 4080 to the 4080 OC. But the most interesting part here for me is still that huge gulf between the 4080, even with the power limit maxed and a bit of an overclock. You can see on both sets of benchmark graphs that there is still this vast desert in between the 4080 and the 4090. Now, as I did mention at the start of this video, we did discuss some gaming benchmarks just yesterday, and there is a bit of an update to that on the original Chip Hell thread. So we have some RTX 4090 versus RTX 4080 gaming results here, and we see Forza Horizon 5 147 versus 127, increase of 15.7%. Shadow of the Tomb Raider 179 versus 129, of course increase of 38.8%. Cyberpunk 2077 111 versus 83. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 137 versus 100. And finally Red Dead Redemption 2 129 versus 99 FPS. And of course the high number is indeed the RTX 4090. But speaking of Nvidia, we do have a bit of an update on the 4070 Ti. Now you may have seen our video the other day where we discussed the tweet from Kapiti7 Kimmy, who stated that the 4080 12GB, which of course has been quote-unquote unlaunched, will become the 4070 Ti instead. And we do have a bit of an update on the 4070 Ti's release date. So first up, we do have a bit of an update from Kapiti himself, who was asked by another Twitter user when will be released January 2023, and they simply replied with a thumbs up. However, we also have an update from Megasize GPU, who also leaked some of those gaming benchmarks for the 4080 that we discussed in the video a couple of days ago, and they're stating that the 4070 Ti will be available on January the 5th, which is also backed up by WCCF Tech, who are also stating that from what they're able to gather from their sources or what have you, they don't really state, it's currently planned for an official unveiling on January the 3rd, reviews the next day on the 4th, and then the launch on the 5th. So it's going to be a very rapid fire reveal and then launch a couple of days later, at least according to WCCF Tech's information, and of course, again, you will find their article linked below. But I think the main question that a lot of people are going to have regarding the 4070 Ti is going to be that price tag. Obviously, when they originally unveiled the 4080 12GB, it was priced not exactly cheap, as it was priced at $899, which, oof, not exactly cheap, and I don't really think most people would be very happy if they launched the 4070 Ti at that same price point, but of course, we just don't know. They will most likely unveil that on January the 3rd, assuming, of course, that all the leaks that I've been discussing up until this point are indeed correct. But I'm curious on your thoughts on this one, guys. What sort of pricing would you like to see for the 4070 Ti? What would you be willing to pay, or are you skipping out on RTX 40 altogether? Perhaps you still have an RTX 30 card, or you're going to go with RDNA 3 this generation, or you're waiting to see what happens in the mid-range, which I think is a lot where a lot of people are at the moment, because obviously the flagships are great, they're all exciting and very flashy, but most gamers go for something in the mid-range because, well, they don't cost the cost of a human kidney. Anyways, we're going to pivot now to Nvidia's arch nemesis, AMD, as they are cooking up some more things for the Zen 4 SKU lineup, specifically the Ryzen 7700 and 7600 non-X processors. Now, obviously, at the moment, AMD have only introduced the X series of SKUs in the Zen 4/Ryzen 7000, whichever is your preference, family, which of course are more towards your gamers and enthusiasts. But now, we have had a leak for both the 7700 and 7600 non-X CPUs appearing in the Sisoft database, and they were running on a Sapphire 7D771 motherboard platform. And there's a fair bit that we can learn from this particular listing. We see the 7700 is an 8-core with 16 threads, 8 megs of L2 and 32 megs of L3. We do see a base clock of 3.8 GHz and a TDP of 65 watts. In terms of the 7600 specs, we do see a 6-core chip with 12 threads, 6 megs of L2, 32 megs of L3, and a 3.8 GHz clock frequency, and again, it runs at that 65 watt TDP. As for the scores, well, obviously we only have the one Sisoft result, but we do see the 7700 scoring 355.4 in the processor arithmetic test in the benchmark ranker, and the 7600 scored 259.72 in the same benchmark tests. And WCCF actually put together a pretty nice graph here to give you a bit of a picture as to what this means in terms of the performance compared to the X SKUs. But again, this is just a one benchmark. We should obviously wait for more results, especially gaming results, to see how these processors actually stack up against their bigger, stronger brothers. Anyway guys, that is me done for this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, do remember to like and subscribe, it does help out a great deal, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.